This is the ultimate modern ocean platform base in Ark Survival Ascended. Of course, I built this on Genesis Part 1, utilizing the brand new added ocean platforms, but wherever there's an ocean, you can easily build this base, which will offer you plenty of space for all of your crafting, storage, and survival needs, as well as plenty of space to even house some of your land tames or flyers if you're on different maps. And of course, it has an ocean pen down below for all of your water tames at the same time. And whether you're planning on not using cosmetics or you are going to use cosmetics, the base will look great. For the glass, I definitely do recommend at least using a cosmetic for that. I'm using Arkitect's Paradise, which is a great cosmetic. It's free to use and it offers these amazing glass textures. If you really don't want to use any cosmetics, you can of course use greenhouse glass instead, but it doesn't look great, and also it means that the material you're using is a lot weaker. Then the rest of the base totally looks fine without any skins, but of course you can always skin the base to your own taste. Hello there survivors, and welcome back to another build tutorial here on my channel. So today I'm going to show you exactly how to build this Modern Tek ocean platform base. It's a really cool base, but a really big base and therefore a pretty lengthy tutorial. So if you enjoy seeing builds like this and you want to continue to see more, make sure to like the video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I really appreciate all of your support, and if you want to support the channel even more, you can always consider becoming a YouTube member. Okay, of course, to get started, we want to place down our ocean platforms. You can, of course, build this everywhere in the ocean. If you're building on Genesis or any future maps, I guess, with the new water system where you have waves, you might still want to be building close to a landmass, because then during storms, the waves are a little bit less high and they won't take over your entire base on the inside. So yeah, we want to place down 2 of these ocean platforms snapped right next to each other, which is going to be the size of our base, and this is going to be a pretty damn big base at that. So we want to start with our ceilings right over here. We want to take these out by 8, so we're just going to keep these going for a little bit. Just like that. So 8 ceilings out is what we need. Then over here we want to make this 3 wide, so basically a 2 by 3 shape here in the corner. Then we're going to add 3 more ceilings over here before we can bring this out a little bit again as well. Then we want to just bring these 2 across, so basically go out by 2, and then we'll make the same kind of corner again. So now we're basically repeating that pattern. Then over here we want to bring these middle 2 all the way back out over into the platform. That's the exact middle of this entire thing. And then we want to have 2 more ceilings right there, so that we have this shape, which will be a way to access the water pen down below. So then we want to bring this in, we want to bring these across, and then over here we want to fill in this entire corner again. Over here we want to go across 3 wide, or 3 long and 2 wide, and then finally here we can fill in this corner again. We can fill in that corner there too, so that we have 2 identical shapes here to get into the ocean platform. We can then also take out our railings and of course start adding them here along the sides, just for some safety measures, so you don't fall into these gaps all the time. So we just want to go all the way around the outer edges, and then in here we actually want to take out our stairs and make them go down by 2 and 2 wide. We can also of course add in our railings on the sides there, so that we have an easy way onto the platform, which is quite useful to have early on, because now if you fall off the platform, at least you'll have an easy way back up. Of course, in the other gap we've just made, we want to do the exact same thing. So we're just going to make sure that these walkways are in order before we continue anything else. So just like this, we have 2 of these gaps ready to go. Then we want to take out our ceilings again, and once again we want to make sure that we add 8 ceilings going across like this, and then we're going to basically repeat what we've just done. So we're going to expand this, then we'll have 3 of them going out, and then this corner, building this out as a 3x3, continue by 2, bring this out one further, and then finally these middle two we can bring all the way back to the central spot. We can have 2 of them over here so that we once again have the same shape. We can do the same over here and expand this side too. Bring this across, and of course basically fill it in with the same kind of pattern, just so that these both sides are all matching up. And there is already plenty of ways to get in and out of the ocean now, which it's definitely handy to do that early on, because if you're building on top of an ocean platform, you're likely to fall off a few times, and this way at least we're able to get easily back on top of the base. So yeah, of course we want to add in all railings everywhere to have all safety measures, and at least around the parts where we build, reduce the amount of times that you'll be falling into the ocean itself. So we just want to continue these all the way along the edge we've built to get those lovely entrances into the ocean pen. And this is also kind of the size guide that we'll be using for the A-frame itself. So the main A-frame is going to kind of be dictated by this shape, and then of course we'll build it out to all different sides. First of all, we want to find the middle here, and then not build right there, not the second one, not the third one, but right over here is where we can start building. And here on the outside, we want to make sure that we stick it out by 3 roofs in total. Then of course from that one we want to leave a gap of 6, so right over here is where we start adding roofs again, and we want to build it all the way to the outside, and again stick it out by 3 to give the whole shape. So this is kind of going to be the outside edge of the A-frame. We want to start the same thing over here, bring this all the way across the side here and stick it out by 3 on the outside, and we'll do the same thing over here, bring this all the way across, stick it out by 3 on the outside like that. Then we want to make sure that we have 1 ceiling in this corner, so just the one to kind of expand the platform with, and we want to do that for all the different sides. Of course we want to take out all walls. We can add 5 walls right over here, leave a gap of 1, add 3 walls, and then make it go around the corner. We can build that same corner right over here, leave a gap of 1, and have all 5 walls just like this, which of course it's going to be the same on all the sides. So here as well, we want to build those 5 walls, then leave a gap, build 3 walls, and go around the corner. We'll build the same corner right over here, leave the gap, and add 5 walls just like that. That's kind of going to be framing up the whole A-frame that we are going to be building. Then from this wall we want to go up by 5 more roofs, so just like this, and then of course we can build this all the way across, and we want to line this up again with the roofs that we already placed down, and we can actually start to fill in this entire shape, which will give us well, one step closer, get kind of the frame in the A-frame ready to go, which of course is going to be dictating quite a bit of the shape of the base. Then we want to do the exact same thing here, so again raise it up by 5, bring it all the way across here on the outside, and connecting it up with the existing parts, and then filling it all in so that we get a little bit more of that A-frame standing tall. So we just want to go around and fill in these sides like this. So that's one side looking already quite nice and tall. Then we want to continue that same kind of thing right over here. So raise it up by 5 roofs, and then bringing it out as far as we already laid down the guides below, and then start filling this all in with the roofs. Oops. So that we get the beginning of the A-frame, which will, of course, dictate the main shape for your building, or at least the central shape for the building. Let's not misplace all of those. There we go. And then one part left, of course, where we have to do the same thing, and once again bring these all the way across and fill in the remaining part of our A-frame shape. There we go. Just like this. We want to fill that all in. So now we kind of have the basic shape going, at least for the bottom part of our building. But at the very end, the last two, let's say, we want to bring these up a little bit further so that we can get closer to the actual A-frame itself. And of course, it also means that we want to bring up this other side so that we can meet in the middle, which kind of gives us a framework to kind of go from. So we want to do the same thing over here, just making sure that we'll meet exactly in the middle, and we kind of have our middle A-frame standing, or at least the shape of it. Then also here at the very top, we can actually bring this all the way across. Again, having this framework here early is really helpful. And of course, the best thing about building the A-frame is you can kind of walk all over this roof. So it's quite easy to reach up these high places, even in survival. So yeah, we want to just keep placing these down all the way across from one side to the other, so that we have the framework in place. So that's how we get started. Then we'll take out our ceilings. So just here where we haven't placed any roofs yet is where we want to start going across with these ceilings. And this is going to be, of course, for the next layer of the build. We can actually follow the entire side here as well to go across and make sure that we have that next layer ready. A lot of ceilings that we need to be placing. Again, here we'll stop short before the last two that we've already built up, and we'll go across to form a connection, and then we can just keep filling in this entire shape that we've just kind of laid out. It's quite a big space, but again, it is a very big base that we're working on. Like, you will have an incredible amount of space available here on the inside to work with, which is really exciting, of course. That just means that whether you have a bigger tribe or you just want to have a bunch of water tames and have the option to bring over your other tames as well, this one will definitely feature a lot of space for you to utilize in any which way you see fit. So yeah, for now, we just have a few more ceilings to go to kind of fill in the central part here of this building, so that we have that other layer in place already for us to use. So yeah, we want to just continue this a little bit further, and then we got the whole ceiling here in place. Now we're actually going to be building some nice beams to kind of look like supports, so that this doesn't look as flat as it does now. To start doing that, we're gonna remove those two roofs, and we'll do the exact same thing here on the opposite side. Then we can take out our walls, and we can go all the way here across the front to basically create the first layer of depth here. And we can do the same thing over here at that layer. So basically we have this gap of 2 before we have another layer of these walls going from one side to the other. And then we can take out our ceilings, and we can start to fill in the gap between them to make it look like this kind of this beam, basically connecting the two different sides, which adds a lot of depth, and it kind of looks like it's supporting the building as well. Of course, here on the other side, we want to do the same thing by removing those two roofs and these two roofs, and then once again taking out a wall to kind of go across from one side to the other. There we go. And of course, again, we can do the same thing over there. After that gap of 2, make sure that we have that beam going across. And then, of course, filling it in with those ceilings. Just making sure we have this beam right where we want it. There we go. So yeah, that again forms a nice bit of support for building. Then we can take out our slope walls right here. We want to make sure that it's flipped like this. And then from here, we can kind of just follow along with our building. We'll reach this beam. Here, we want to flip around those slope walls again and continue going all the way up to the top and back down on the other side. And again, this is going to help us form some more supportive beams. Here again, we want to flip it around and just continue it all the way back down until we connect up with the building. That's going to be that for now. Here, of course, we want to do the same thing. We want to make sure that we have these supports going all the way up. And again, this is going to add some extra depth to the building here on the front and the back wall. So we want to first of all just line out these supports with the slope walls underneath the roof. There we go, all the way back down the roof like this. And once we have this all in place, we can take out our roofs themselves and basically bring this all the way up so that we have a proper beam supporting our building. There we go. And just like that, we have the support, we have the layers, which looks really nice, and that just makes this feel a little bit stronger. Of course, we'll have the exact same thing that we can do over at the opposite side. So again, we're gonna start with these slope walls, bringing up those supports and continuing that all the way to the very top here of this building. And that way we'll have that same supportive beam at the front and the back of our A-frame. So yeah, we just want to continue these and bring them all the way back down on this side. Then over here, of course, and do the same thing once more. Bring it all the way up to the very top here. And back down the other side we go. And again, these supports will really help out making this look all that little bit nicer in general. We want to bring this all the way back down till the end of the roofs for now. And then, of course, we can add in those roofs ourselves so that we have the whole support going up the side of the building, just like this, and back down the other side. And then remove that one. Yeah, so now we have those supports at the front and the back, but we also actually want to add them in on the inside of the building. So right over here, we can also start adding in these supports. There we go. We can actually break open the top, but before we go up, we can also bring these supports back down the sides. There we go. And then we can, of course, also do it on the upper side exactly the same way. So adding in these supports up to there, breaking up that ceiling in the one spot, and then bringing this across once again back up to the top like that, which means we can also go up there, and then we can of course continue this pattern to make sure that this continues and connects up with each other on the inside, and also really helps kind of giving the inside rooms a little bit more structure and potentially ways to easily divide up the rooms into different sections depending on what you're planning to do with the inside, of course. There we go, all the way back down. And then before we do anything else, we can also add in our roofs here at the inside to make sure that these supports are complete. Then we'll dive back down. And of course, here as well, we want to make sure that those supports are in place. We can do the same thing here over at the other side. Oops, just making sure we have that support going all the way up. So yeah, there we go. We have some more supportive beams. And of course, we have one more place where we need to bring these in. So again, we're going to bring up our slope walls to the level of the ceilings. We can break open those ceilings, bring the supports back down here so that they'll fit right in. Then we can do the same thing over here, making sure that we bring up the slope walls to the ceilings, break open that one ceiling, and bring it back down all the way until we meet up with the existing structure. And then we can dive up to the top and then finally just connect these pieces with each other so that we have at least the supports of the A-frame all in place. And then we can start to work on finishing the bottom layer of the A-frame. But first, of course, we'll make sure that this framework is all in place so we can continue this up to the top and back down the other side. There we go. Then we take out our roofs again, fill in the inside here so that the beam is ready to go. And then of course we can go to the inside here and make sure that we add our roofs all the way down the sides like this. And of course on the opposite side we can do the same thing. Oops, there we go. Bring this up to the layer of the ceilings so that we have our supports ready. And with that, you can already see that the whole hallway like kind of looks like more supported and more detailed with these recent additions. Then we want to take out our gateways and we want to go here to the very end. We want to have a gateway going off to this side and another gateway going off to the opposite side. Of course, we can also fill in the actual gates themselves. These will, of course, lead off to the rooms on each side of the building. Then we can take out our metal large walls. I'm using metal, which I'm going to be skinning into glass. If you don't want to use cosmetics, you can, of course, use the greenhouse glass instead. And I'm using metal just to make it easier to realize what is actually going to be a window and what is just going to be the main deck structure. So we want to fill it in all the way along the side like this. We can do the same thing over here. So we're going to be adding 3 walls up here and then just kind of following the shape of the roof edge here to make it all meet up. So that's kind of one side done. Then of course we want to do the same thing here on the opposite side. Bring in those large walls, fill in the middle bits, and then of course bring up these walls alongside the structure. Same over here on this side. And finally making sure that we add the sloped walls all the way along like that. There we go. Then I'm using the clear glass skin from the Arkitect's Paradise custom cosmetic. It's a free cosmetic and it's a really nice one for this glass texture, which you can use on pretty much everything. And as you can see, it instantly and easily transforms these structures into some nice windows. It's got tack doors as well, so you can keep the animations but make it look like a window. And we can just get these very nice and clean windows going off to the side of our building. And yeah, still letting in plenty of light, which is always exciting, of course. And then over here, the top 2 layers, we want to just also fill in with our roofs. The rest we'll see a little bit later, but for now, that finishes up the hangar. So we've got ways into the water as well as way off to the sides, to the side of the buildings. So here on the inside, what we want to do here in the middle, we want to add 2 walls there and 2 walls right over here. Then in between these sections, we can also fill it in with the walls. Of course, you can use secret doorways if you still want to access the little space in between. But for me, I'm just going to use regular walls. Of course, the same thing goes for the other side. We'll have 2 walls right here in the middle. Same thing over here, those 2 walls. And then, of course, filling this gap in all the way through. Which also means that we can take out these ones for these middle supports, because they won't be visible anyway. And we don't want to waste any structures that you're never going to be able to see. So we can remove a few of these slope balls just to kind of save on your structure count. Then one from the middle part here, we want to start with bringing our walls all the way across, or roofs of course. And we want to do the same thing over here, bring this all the way across, and these 2 as well. We can just kind of fill in completely. Then here on the inside, we want to at least fill those in, and along that side. Then here in the middle, we can use our metal roofs or greenhouse roofs, depending on what you're using. And in my case, I'm going to change this to a lovely window so that we get some nice light going into this place. We can, of course, do the same thing here at the opposite side. So first of all, bringing those roofs along the edge, we want to fill in the support, and then we can fill in these remaining ones with the roofs as well. 1 layer of roofs along this side, 1 along that side, before we add in our windows again. And again, it's just going to be filling these in with metal roofs, and in my case, skinning them to these beautiful glass textures, which of course we can repeat as well here on the opposite side of our building. So first of all, fill in along this edge, add this one here, add that one over that side, and of course the final 2 here towards the middle, just like this, so that we can add in our lovely window here. There we go. And change the skins to the window so that we keep letting all the light in. And then finally, one more time, we can of course fill in these gaps just like this. And of course, now we can fill in all of those roofs. We want to have a layer right there on the inside and another one over here before we can add once more on nice windows here in the roof itself. There we go. Just like that should give us all the windows there are. Then we can take out our walls again. We can slowly start filling in the majority of the shape here. And then of course adding the slope balls to follow the shape of the building itself all the way like this. And of course that means we can change the skins so that we get some beautiful windows to look out from. So that's one side got the window in. We also want to add, of course, the window on the opposite side, filling this in all the way just like this, and then going for our slope balls to fill in those remaining gaps. There we go. And once again, we can change the skins to get our lovely window in place. And if you want to, of course, on the inside, you can, of course, add some rooms. For example, if you basically make another window wall here, maybe center out the middle with some quartz walls and then a door right in the middle, etc. You can, of course, block off these sections so that you can have one room on this side, another one room on that side, and then a central room right over here. But again, really depends on what your plans are with the base and how you're going to decorate it. But that's just a suggestion on how to divide the upper layer. So for the side wings, there's 2 options what you can do. You can either fill in the entire floor completely, so you can use it as a full space, or once again, you can dedicate it to water breeding with having an access points down below, and potentially even ways where you can kind of half park your tames onto the stairs so that you have easy access to them. Here on the right, we're going to go for the approach of turning this into one full room. So once again, we'll take out our ceilings and we'll start filling in the remaining section of this part of the ocean frame. So this side is going to be completely filled in because we already kind of have a lot of places where you can easily access the water. So I don't think we'll need that many more necessarily. So we can just kind of go around the very edges and fill in this entire floor so that we have some more room to work with. There we go. And now we have a whole floor for us to work with and make a nice interesting shape here that will give us plenty of extra room. So right over here on the corner, we're going to go in by 2, and then the third one is where we place one of our roofs. We'll do the exact same thing here on the opposite side, and we want to make sure that these are 5 high in total, so just like this. And we can do the exact same thing right over here, and at the very end we want to go up by a wall, and then we'll add 6 more here to the outside, so just like this. And then after those 6 we should be able to take out our roofs again. And if I'm gonna bring this all the way down here along the side, it should let me build some pretty nice details. Now in this case, we're actually not going to stop at the surface, but we're already going to be working on some detailing here for the bottom layers and the future water pen. So basically we want to bring this as far as it will allow you. So here it stops. That's where we stop with the roofs, just to kind of connect it and have some designs along the outside too. So again here we're going to go out by 6 in total, and then from the very last one is where we start to add more supports going all the way down the side of the building. And again, we're not going to stop here at the surface, but we want to build this as far as we can to basically add some details here around the outside. There we go. That's the final one. All right, then if we dive down here, we want to have a wall here at the very end on both sides, of course, which also means we can add another layer of our roofs now to basically start forming some kind of supports, which is of course quite nice. And we want to bring this all the way up along the side here, just like this, so that we'll have a nice support beam. We also want to do that over here, so these ones we can kind of bring up as well, just like this. And of course you can do this along the entire side of the building here. There we go. And then finally diving back down into the water over here, and then we can bring this up across the very, very top, which kind of helps us form this side building in a way. So we want to bring this all the way across, and there we go. We got our beams kind of in place, but of course that's much more detail to add along these sides. First of all, here we can of course start filling in these sides with our sloped walls, bringing them all the way up along the side of the building so that we have the proper supports in place. There we go. And then of course finally we'll have our walls, and we can actually bring this wall all the way across, which should then meet up with the wall that we already had coming out the side of the A-frame, and that gives us kind of the shape that we'll be working with for the side of the building. Then of course here we can also fill in this side, making sure that we have all of our sloped walls in place like this. And then here the last 3 we want to also add in our slope walls. The rest of them I'm not sure if you can, if you're unofficial, because we are going to be building the water pen down below here of course, but for now this will have to do. Then here along the other side we can of course do the same thing, making sure that we bring up these slope walls along the side to fill in the beams. We can do the same thing over here, going all the way along it to make sure that we fill it all in. There we go. All the way down the side to the very end. And of course, here we can place 3 of them in just for now. That kind of gives us the basic shape, but we have some more to shape up. We also, of course, want to fill in the sides of these supports so that we can have those going all the way across just like this. And we can continue that, of course, here on the other side. Bring this all the way across up to the top level, and then finally also filling in the other side of the building. There we go, back down below. So if we have this support over here, we want to go 1 to the outside and start adding in a 2 wide layer of ceilings, which is basically a little walkway so that we can build another entrance way up to the platform. So we'll take out our roofs and we can add them here going down into the ocean. We can do the same thing here on the opposite side, and of course taking out our railings to just add them in all along the side of the building, just again to add in some extra ways to get easily in and out of the water on the outside this time, because the other ones are technically all going to be on the inside of your build. And then we can actually also add in the railings here around the side of the platform. And here, the last one, probably want to do a half railing there instead, just to kind of make sure that we don't fall off the edges here. So we're going to do the exact same thing on this side, and then a half one to end it with. So that kind of shapes of the building already a little bit. And it means that we can now place the gateway. So what we want to do is bring out the gateway itself and add it right over here so that we have a nice entrance into our base. Of course, we can add the tech gate itself and change it to a nice window texture so that we can still see through it. Here along the top, we want to make sure that we also continue this one going across, so the walls connecting up with each other. And we can then also start filling in the sides here. So we want to take out these 2 ceilings, basically go around the edges here so that we can have the beam that we also had in the A-frame also kind of continue here along the outside of our building. So we want to fill in that first layer, and of course continue it all the way till the other side, going around things where we don't need any floor. And we can continue this up to the very corner, from where, of course, we want to connect it back up to the main building and the A-frame itself. So we'll bring this all the way across the very edge. There we go. And then, of course, we can take out our walls and we can start adding them here along the ceilings, along the side of the building, just to make sure that this is all connecting up with each other. There we go. And of course we can also do that here on the inside, making sure that we add all of our walls in place like this. And then over here, of course, we can continue that wall on the inside, bring this all the way out along the very edge, and then of course turn it around again and once again fill it all in so that we have a nice supportive beam around this building, which we'll see in a little bit later. We can also start adding in the windows around this entrance. So we first of all want to have 3 large walls there. We want to have 3 large walls right over here, and we can also fill in this middle bit all the way up to the top. So we're just going to fill it all in, and then here along the sides, of course, we can use a slope wall to get it across. And then of course it means that we can start skinning this all to really transform it, which means we have a great access point for natural light coming in here. We also want to fill in these sides over here. So what we can do is add a few of our sloped walls. First of all, we can do the exact same thing right over here. And then, of course, fill in the actual walls. And the same thing on the opposite side before we change it all up to those beautiful glass skins, giving us some incredible views of our surroundings. Then over here for these sides, if we want to take out all metal roofs, we can go all the way across the bottom here and we can start filling in this entire bit, and then we can bring this all the way across. And again, just kind of continue this all the way until we meet up with the bottom layer. There we go. And we can, of course, change this to a beautiful window. So these side buildings are actually going to get a ton of natural light, which is always nice in my experience. So that's one big window down. It also means we can start on the other side here. We can add in our roofs going across and slowly but surely start filling in this entirety of the window, so that we can have at least almost one part of the side buildings done. Which of course again means we can skin all of this to the glass skin, the clear or clean glass skin, now clear glass. And that just gives us a beautiful window with amazing views of our surroundings. And then it's time to also add in the side walls. First of all, we want to take out our slope walls, go around this very edge to fill in those corners, but then we can also follow the corners right over here by adding in more of those sloped walls. We can then bring out all large walls first, basically fill in as much as possible, of course, with all large walls, just to save you a bunch of structure. So kind of like this is the most you can do before taking out all normal walls and basically filling in the remaining gaps. So that again, we're gonna have some giant windows, which I always really like for these modern builds. So yeah, we just want to change this all to those glass structures, which will quite quickly get us some amazing windows overlooking the side. There we go. So that's one big window right over here, and then we can do the same thing over at the other side, of course. So first of all, taking out these slope wall pieces just like this, but also here on the other side, making sure that we follow this shape up. And then we want to take out our large walls around the bottom edge here. We can build this up. We can build the same thing up on that side. And we can kind of keep doing this all along. There we go. Just filling in those gaps. And then, of course, we can start changing this all to the glass skin so that we get some beautiful glass windows around the entire side of our building. There we are. So we have a beautiful window, kind of features everywhere around this side building. But that's not all, of course. We still need to work on the inside itself, as well as making sure that we actually have a way to get up to the top part of the building too, and of course adding the roof on top of this section. So to begin, we're going to go here on the inside and we're going to have these ceilings right over there before we bring up our roofs again. So we're basically going to build some more supports here that are going to be touching the roof. So this one is going to go up this high where the actual roof is going to be, and then of course that means we can also add in this layer, which will go up a similar way all the way until it will be touching the roof above. And then of course we do the exact same thing here on this side of the building. There we go. Bring this all the way up along the side of it. There we are. And that means we can also start filling in the sides here. So here is just these slope walls going up, build these supports that will hold up the rest of the building. And we can do the same thing right over here, making sure that this goes all the way up along the sides as well. And of course do the same thing for both of these. So just following this all the way along to the very top layer. Then on this side we want to bring these down again so that we can basically fill in these entire sides. There we go. Just like that, we have some extra supports going. Then we also want to take out our ceilings here along the top of this part of the building. We just want to start filling this entire section in with a little overhang here around the outside of the wall, which is one wider, and we can just fill in this entire bit of it to create a nice platform and basically a nice entrance into the A-frame itself. Then here on this height we basically want to bring this out by 3, and we can start creating a nice little platform along the side of the building all the way up to where the window is going to be. And we can do the same thing over here. So again, bring this out by 3 and all the way along the side up to where the window is. So these different platforms kind of give us some infrastructure to work with. We want to then bring out our stairs over here. We can bring them out 2 wide down to this platform. And we can do the same thing over here on the other side, just to give access to those different layers, which allows you, to place things down here. You can have storage, you can have crafting stations, and then we're going to go up a little step here along the side, and we can have even more things. And in here, after those first 2 or 1 from the roofs, we can bring up 2 more stairs just like that to reach the next platform. We can do the same right over here, and then of course expand this with 2 extra ceilings. And then we can actually bring out our railings, because of course we want to make sure that these platforms are safe. So we can add our railings around the outside like this, and then of course here along the sides of the stairs we also want to bring them round. And this way we basically utilize all these different layers on the inside of the building to create more spaces for your crafting stations, storage, etc. So we want to just make sure that we have the railings all the way around the outside here. There we go. And then finally those 2. So basically you can go up to this layer, you have some room there. You can go up to the middle platform, and you have some more room right there in the middle. And then the next staircase is right here in the middle. We want to go in by 2 ceilings before we have a staircase that goes up by 2 as well. And after this, of course, we can start filling in a little bit more of this layer, because basically this is where we're going to be filling in the rest of it. It's all going to be ceilings, which will give you a giant balcony kind of layer on top, where you can do whatever you want. You can do a ton of breeding, you can build a little greenhouse on top of here, you can park your tames, whatever you need. There's a lot of space, and of course on different maps you can easily house all of your flyers up here, depending on what you prefer, where you're playing, and whatever way you want to utilize the amount of space that you'll get by doing this. So first up, we're just going all the way around the building so that we can get a good outline of the layer that we're working with. This should be meeting up back to where we started. We then basically want to build around this gap, so we'll leave a gap of 2 by 2 for the staircase before we can just start filling in this entire shape in its entirety. Which is quite a lot of ceilings, of course. It's a pretty big shape, but it will also give us one of the two side wings of this main building, which means we're one step closer to getting the whole build done, and we're definitely gonna be gaining a enormous amount of space here, and of course a way up to the top layers. This would exactly is what we needed. We didn't really have those yet, of course. So yeah, we're just gonna keep going across and filling in these layers until we have the whole bit filled in over here. Of course, except the gap we left for the staircase. Everything else can be completely filled in so that we have a new canvas to work with up here. There we go. And we're almost there. It's a lot of ceilings, but it's easier just to fill it in right away, and then we can make all the adjustments we need once we get to it. We want to go to the outer corner here, and we will go in by 3. So this is 3 ceilings, and then we want to also go in by 3 again. That means that this corner over here, so with 3 left here and with 3 left the other way, is the one we want to take out. And then we want to open a gap that is 5 long here. We want to do the same right here. So this is 3, 4, and 5. And then we should be passing just next to those supports that we've made before. And basically you can pick up all of these ones to create a nice gap over here, which is where we're going to be building kind of a skylight. We can do the same thing over here on this corner. So again, from the corner, what you can also do is go in by 3 here, and then, you know, the 4th is the one we need to take out. So again, we want a gap of 5 by 5. And don't worry, because all those ceilings will still need later for the other side of the building. And this is the gap that we want to clear out for the skylight itself. Then we want to take out our metal beams. Well, you could use the tech still, but I prefer the look of the metal ones. And we want to go around the outside edges here, just to set apart this space a little bit more. There we go. So we do that for the one side, and of course the same thing here for the other side as well, giving us some nice outlines here for these skylights. Now the skylights we're actually going to be using the behemoth cellar doors for, because that way, especially on maps with flyers, you can use them as entrances. We do, however, want to make sure that they do not open automatically, because then when you do not want them to open, they'll just stay closed and you can walk over them still as a ceiling. We can use the glass skin on them to get the nice skylights, and that will give us a nice view into the rest of our base. And then before we finish everything on the top, we want to have some final details here. So here we can have these thin pillars going up to the top layer. We can leave a gap of 2 before we have another one of those going up. And we can do the same thing over here. So again, have this layer going up, a gap of 2 before the next one goes up. And then here on the top layer, we can have the corners connected just to give them a little bit more structure. Then here on the outside, we want to take out our roofs. And right from there, we want to go up by 3 in total. So just like this, 3 in total is going up. We then want to have a ceiling right over here before we have, again, the roofs going up like this. And of course, we only need 2 right there on the inside to kind of get these support shapes, just like so. And then of course here along the outside we can be sure to fill them in with our sloped walls. And we can do that as well here on the inside. There we go. We want to do the same thing on the opposite side, of course. Kind of to make sure that we have these supports working for our entrances. Then we want to take out our gateways. We want to place one right over here and one right over there. We can add in the gates itself so that we have 2 exits, and we can skin them to be the glass texture. Here along the side, of course, we can fill in that wall, and then this little gap we want to fill in with a little glass window too. Here in the middle, we want to take out our roofs. We can have 3 roofs going up like this to meet up with those gates. And we can have those come all the way down the side. Then we can take out the walls, add them in right over here just to kind of fill in the shape for the staircase. And of course, fill in those remaining walls just to be sure that this is all complete as a building. Over here, of course, we also want to fill in the sides, so we can take out these walls in a little T shape like this. We want to do the same thing on the opposite side, and then take out our slope walls to match up with the remaining shape of the building. And of course, we can change this all to the glass windows so that they fit in the right way. Then we want to take out our roofs. We want to go out by 2 from the outside here. We can bring this all the way up to the front, where we go out by 3 in total from the gates. And that way we can just kind of fill in this entire platform to make a nice side entrance here on the top of our building. So we can connect it all the way back up and then go across again to make sure that this is all completely filled in along the sides. And then of course above it, we just want to make sure that we fill it in all the way across the top. And that offers us a pretty cool looking entrance here to the top layers. Now for the top layers itself, there's a lot of space that you can utilize here, but to keep you safe, I would at least suggest adding some railings around the outside edges to make sure that you don't just run off all the time. Yeah, that's another final adjustment we need to make to get the whole side of this building done, which definitely is a lot of work. And then we have a whole other one to build, but that's going to be very familiar because in many ways it's going to be similar. It kind of just is the inside that is different, because we won't be making another staircase up to the top just to save some space. But looking at that, you can already see we have a pretty big building ready to go now. So for the opposite side, we're going to make another kind of like entrance into the underwater breeding pen, rather than just repeating the same. But if you rather have another full room, of course you can just do the exact same thing that we just did on the other side. So for now, we want to have 1 layer of ceilings going all the way around the side of the A-frame. Then we want to bring out these middle 2 all the way across the sides. And then we can have 2 wide layer here going this way and going the opposite way, just to give ourselves some space to work with. Then we can take out our stairs and we can add them in here so that we have some ways again to get into the water pen. They're a little bit wider than the other ones we have so far, and for example an Ark can fit perfectly on here for easy access if you want to be able to harvest the algae and stuff like that. We then also want to take out our railings, of course, and we can start with adding those around the gap that we've just created for some safety measures, of course. So we just want to make sure that we add these in around the edges and on both sides of this gap, of course. And again, if you want to, you can also just fill this entire thing in with ceilings if you need the space for anything else. Or even do kind of 50-50. You can have one of these entrances and then fill in the other side completely so that you can, for example, have some bigger structures in here if you still need that. Then over here, of course, we can have our ceilings just like that. And then, of course, here again, we want to take out our roofs. Here we want to go in by 2. And then this one, we want to have 5 roofs going up like this. The same we can do on the opposite side. So again, 5 roofs going up like this. And then we can, of course, connect these up. And here on the side, we want to add 6 more of those walls to come out with. So there we go, just bringing those all the way out. And then we can, of course, also connect these back up with each other. So this line we want to bring all the way out to the corner here, and we can do the same thing on the opposite side here. Bring this all the way out until we meet up with the other corner. And whilst we're at it, we might as well bring out these. We want to bring this across quite a bit, but stop 2 before the end. And we can do the same thing here on the opposite side, making sure that we bring this across all the way, but stop 2 before the end. Then we can take out our ceilings. And the bottom layer here we can start to fill in, just so that we have this kind of supportive beam going around the outside of this building, which is also kind of a nice guideline to use. Here we want to leave this one open where we have the support coming in, but for the rest we can fill it in all the way around the building up to the very corner. We can actually also leave the corner itself open, and then we can just bring this all the way back until we've gone all the way round. So yeah, technically, to save structures, we can also leave that corner open. And then, of course, we can bring out the walls and be sure to add them here around the inside as well, so that we have that whole supportive beam around the outside edge of this layer in place. Then, of course, the next step is to actually bring down this support as well. So from the corner, we can bring our roofs down. And, of course, this one goes all the way into the water, and just as on the other side, we actually want to bring this quite deep as details for the water pen that will be here as well. So we just want to go as deep as it will let us, and once it's done that, we can build a wall at the very end there. From that wall, we can also bring the roofs back up to the top so that we have the whole supportive beam that we want and need here. Again, we want to bring this all the way back to the very top. There we go. And then, of course, we can do the same thing here from the opposite corner. So we want to just start bringing this down the side of the building, and then all the way as far as it goes. There we go. And then at the end, we want to have our wall before we bring it up. And then we have our nice supportive beam ready to go. There we are. And of course, also here around the inside, it means that we can have those supportive beams reaching up to the kind of the beam that we already have going around the top here. So we want to bring those in place. And then finally, we can actually also bring out this one here, which can go one higher because it can go all the way up to the level of the roof. So we want to bring this out all the way the very top, and the same right over here. Bring this all the way out to the same height. There we go, building up this support all the way. Then of course we can take out our slope walls and we can start filling in the sides of these supports. So first of all, we want to just bring this one all the way up to the top here. We can also bring it down the other side just to connect it up to the rest of the building. And then the same goes for all of the other supports, of course. We just want to make sure that we have them all in place and ready to go. So yeah, we just want to bring this all the way, connect that back up, and then of course also for these supports, we want to make sure that we can fill them all in. There we go. Bringing the structure there, so then as well these sides, of course, want to bring them up to the top layer here, and then on the outside we want to bring it back down all the way to the bottom. There we go. And to the final end, we want to just have the 3 here on the inside again, the same as we did for the opposite side. So let's start with those 3 right over here, and then of course on the other side make sure we bring it all the way up to the top layer. There we are. And this will quickly give us a lot of the structure and kind of shape of the other side of our base, of course, because it is very similar to what we've done before. So most of this is nothing new and nothing surprising. And we'll quickly get you the other side of the build and even more space in your base, which, yeah, gives you a really cool modern ocean base, of course. There we go. So we have all the supports in place now. We kind of also want to make another way into the platform. So we bring out these ceilings to one after this supported beam, and the same can be done here on the other side. So one after this beam is where this ends. We then want to bring out our stairs into the water again, of course, so that we can easily get in and out of the water, especially once we close off the ocean pen below. We can of course also add in these railings and a little half railing at the very end there. We want to continue these railings all the way along the side of the walkway, and of course along the stairs, and then over here we want to just block that off too with a little half railing at the very end, just to give us another nice entryway into the base. Then we want to take out our gateway right here in the middle. We can place it down, and we also want to make sure that we have the gate in it itself, and then of course we can add the glass to it. Then what we want to do is take out our large walls. We can have 3 of them right next to each other over here, and then we can have another 3 right over there, just to kind of fill in the majority of this. And then the last bits, we just want to use our normal walls to fill in these gaps, just like this. And for those last remaining gaps here, of course, we want to have a slope wall right there, so that we can fill it all in with our glass textures to create a beautiful, nice window here around the entrance. And then of course all that remains is the final bit on the side. So again, I want to take out our slope walls and then fill in the remaining parts with normal walls and change them to our glass textures. Same goes on the other side of the entrance. So we want to bring in those slope walls and then fill in the full walls right in the middle and fill in those with the skin, so that we have an entrance to go to the outside of our base. And then of course for these sides, again, it's going to be rather easy. We just want to fill it all in with our roofs, so that we can skin it to the glass and create some nice big windows here at the very end of our base. So first of all, this side will fill in completely and change to our glass texture. There we go. A nice big window. And then of course the other side here is exactly the same. So we just want to fill it in all the way across, so that we have nice big windows, and we can secure this side. We have one more side that is complete after this. There we go. And then of course, once again, add our glass textures for a beautiful, nice looking windows so that you can enjoy all the views of your surroundings. Then here around the middle bit, we want to just make sure that this sticks out by one ceiling and kind of go around the edges here for this little entrance, and we can fill the middle in as well. There we go. Then we have the entrance complete, and now of course we still need to add in the remaining windows here. So over here we want to make sure to add our sloped walls around the edges, just like this. And then over here as well, we want to be sure to add in our sloped walls. And then wherever we can, we want to have our large walls. So the ones in the middle, but also this one and that one can still fit a large wall. The rest will have to fill in with the normal walls, making sure that we fill in the remaining gaps so that we can turn this all into a beautiful big window where we can enjoy the views of our surroundings, of course. So yeah, we go around the entire side of the building just like that, a nice big window. And of course then the final side here of the building will do the exact same thing once again. So again, fill in the sides here with our sloped walls, and then we do the exact same thing over here, making sure we add these in. We can then take out our large walls, place them wherever we can, and then finally fill in the gaps with our normal walls all the way across. And then of course the remaining ones right here before we change it all to the glass textures so that we get our lovely big window. There we go. Just like this. So now we have all the windows in place again, and it means we can almost start filling in the entirety here. But first of all, we'll leave our spaces for the skylights. So we want to build these 3x3 in the corner, and then from there we want to go out by 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We want to add one more before we go around the corner. Then again, we want to make sure that this inside here has 5 before we go around the corner again. And then we can fill in the side like this. So basically, we want to make sure that we create a gap here, which is 5 by 5, just as we did on the other side. It should line up with that support that we have there. So here as well, we can bring this all the way out. We can start filling this in the first 3 layers. There we go. Fill in the corner 3 by 3. And then of course, here we want to bring this out by 5 before we come across this. There we go. And then of course, we can fill this side in here. And then the remaining part of this top layer, we can all fill in completely. So we want to just bring this all the way across, and then we have those 2 big skylights already mapped out for later. So for now, we just want to go around the entirety and be sure to fill it all in. There we go. All the way around the outsides here. And then just keep it all going just like that. And then over here, of course, we want to continue to do the same thing. Just go and fill it all in. There's a lot of ceilings once again, of course. But that means we'll have a ton of space available. And we're getting closer and closer to actually finishing this entire build, of course, which is also pretty nice, so that you can enjoy your new ocean base. So yeah, just wanting to fill in the last remaining parts here. There we go. The final bit. And then we have this top layer completely filled in. So yeah, there's no staircase on this side, just to save the space. Again, you can of course just make the same layout as on the other side if you prefer that. Over here on the top, we want to bring out all metal beams around the edges, just because I think that looks a lot nicer than using the tech ones. And we just want to circle around the entire 5x5 gap. There we go. Just make sure that we add them all the way round. And once we've done that, of course, we can take out our behemoth cellar doors, fit them in exactly like this. Make sure that you turn off the auto open feature so they just are not opening all the time, which is kind of annoying in my opinion. And now you can still use it as a roof. And then of course we can skin them to be the glass texture as well, so that we have two big skylights letting in some light into the rest of your base, which is always nice, of course. And that means that we have the whole bottom of this done, and we just need to build the entrance here, and of course making sure it is all safe up here. So first off, let's just make sure that we add in those railings all the way around the edges here, so that you don't accidentally run off the side of your building. So yeah, we can just go around the entire edge of the build, making sure that we get our railings in all around, just for some safety measures. And then of course we can build the little entrance to the top layer of our building. We want to take out our roofs to begin with. We can add 3 of them going up like this before we add in a ceiling, and then 2 more to kind of get this supportive beam. We want to have a wall there, and of course we can fill in the sides just like this, and then also along these sides all the way up to the top. We can also add one right over here, a normal wall, and then of course do the same thing. So at the 3 roofs, at the ceiling on top of here, before we build the rest of the support like that. We can fill in the sides, of course, and then also here on the inside, just so that we kind of have this shape in place. Then we can take out our gateway. We want to place it right here in the middle, just like that. And we can of course start filling it in around the sides here. We want to get our walls in place, just so that we have some nice windows. We want to have this little corner filled in, and then around the outside here, of course, we want to have that one filled in, and these 2, just to make sure that the whole shape is covered. So we want to do the same thing here on the opposite side, and then finally fill in those walls to fill in the gaps. We can of course change this all to the nice glass texture to get our windows in place. There we go. And then finally, of course, add in the door itself here. We can also make sure that we have the gate being a glass window, and then just here along the top we want to add in some of our ceilings. We're going too wide around the sides here, and then on the front it is 3 from the gate basically, and we can go all the way around it to fill this in and finish this entrance. There we go. Connect it back up to the building and just fill in these ceilings all the way, so that we have this little entrance building ready to go. And that means we have one more layer of roofs to fill in the gap right up there, and that leaves us with a nice little entranceway into the top layer here of the other side of your building. So with that, we have pretty much finished the main building. We just want to add a few more details here around the edge. Now that we have everything in place, we can bring down these roofs just a little bit before they meet up with the rest. So we can also make sure that we bring this down just so that we kind of connect the sides of the building a little bit more. And they don't kind of just stop at the edge of the platform. I think this looks a whole lot nicer. So we want to fill in those gaps and then have a ceiling right underneath it. Just this means that it's more connected with the ocean itself. So we want to do the same thing right over here, and then of course continue this down as well. We can add in the ceiling and of course get those slope walls in there to kind of fill in the gaps just to make it feel more connected. It overlaps with the platform, which just adds a little bit of extra depth, which of course is something we also want to do on the opposite side of our structure. So we want to add those roof pieces in here as well. Same thing over here, just bringing it down a little bit further. And then of course also this supportive beam, we want to make sure that we fill that in. We can add the ceiling right there, add all slope walls here just to connect up to the building. And then again, make sure that we have that kind of overhang with the ocean platform, which just ties it all together a little bit more than we had. So we want to make sure that we do this on all sides, of course. And then these slope walls, and there we go. Then of course it's also nice to have some entryways into this middle bit. So we want to have all 4 stairs right here, and of course including the railings, which also means that on the opposite side we can do the exact same thing, just as some nice ways to get in and out of the water and on top of your platform. Then if you want to expand them a little bit more, you can actually bring this out a little bit and build like a nice little platform here around the outside to give yourself a little bit more space here to maybe park some tames, flyers if you're on a different map than Genesis, of course. But yeah, just give the platform a little bit more room to breathe. We can do the same thing here on the opposite side. And then just basically utilizing the space that is available to us by building these platforms in there. And just to get that little extra room. And of course, very importantly, we want to make sure that we have our railings around the outside so you don't just fall off the edge. There we go. And we'll do the same thing over here too. Making sure that we have the railings all in place around the edge. Then of course we can go back to the opposite side again and basically do the exact same thing here again, just to utilize every inch that we can have available here. Give yourself a bit more room to work with. There we go. And of course the same thing here. All the way to the edge and back in to the main structure, filling in the gap here. And then adding in the railings around the edge, just so that we can finish that middle platform now. There we go. Yeah, this just adds some extra ways on the outside to get out of the water and into the platform. So again, that utilizes all of the space available, and then it's time to dive down and add a water pen. Now, by far the quickest way to add the water pen is by snapping these vacuum compartments underneath. It's definitely not a cheap way, but you will get a pretty sizable water pen. Of course, you can use walls instead if you prefer. But yeah, just this is definitely a lot faster, and technically you can still utilize all the space inside of the ocean or the vacuum compartments too. And you can kind of just snap 2 under the edge of the entire ocean platform all the way around the outside, which is also why we didn't add these slope balls into the inside there, because I'm not sure, at least on official, if you're allowed to do that. Afterwards, of course, you can always check, and if you can do it, I would fill it all in, but otherwise I don't think it's too bad to leave that open. But yeah, just will easily get you a nice perimeter wall for an ocean pen below your platform. And again, if you can't do this, of course you could also just do this with walls instead, but it will cost you way more structures, and especially on official, I'm not quite sure if you can build the whole pen and not hit the structure limit, because it is a very big base already. But yeah, basically we want to go all the way around as we've done just now to block out the edges of the ocean platform. Now technically you can still go 2 walls lower, but then you can't place a ceiling down, so at least 1 wall lower you could do, but again it's going to add a ton of extra structures, so it kind of depends on you whether you want to do that or not. So then to start blocking off the entire platform here that we've built, we want to go around the outside basically and get a layer of ceilings in all the way across from one side to the other, because, well, we need to of course make sure that nothing can just swim into the platform. We of course will be adding some entrances that we can open up so that you can still swim in and out, and that you will have a decent amount of breathing space in here for your water tames. Of course is the advantage of building out in the ocean, so we have to at least make it possible for you. There we go. You just want to go all the way back to the other side, and then we're almost all the way around. Yeah, this is a very big space. It's easy to kind of forget how big 2 platforms are. Then we take out our cellar doors again. We want to snap 1 here, so this is the behemoth size. We want to snap 2 right there, and then a 3rd right next to it. Then we want to start from the other side, have the 1, have the 2, and then have 3 of them, but they do leave a little gap because otherwise they start to overlap, which we don't want, and we want to make sure that we place it in such a way that it still kind of looks nice. So again, we're going to have 3 of them next to each other in that corner, and then also we're going to have 3 of them right next to each other in this corner. And of course you want to make sure that you turn off the auto open feature, because otherwise they're constantly going to go open as soon as you swim anywhere near them, which is definitely not what you want. So you want to make sure that you turn off the auto open on every one of these, so that if you want to leave your water pen, it's by your choice and not because you accidentally kind of just swam too near and maybe, you know, let in some wild creatures. But yeah, once we've done all of them, which does take a little bit, they should no longer auto open, and you can actually walk around them. Well, you're not going to be walking here, but they won't open up without your asking for it. So then the rest, there's really nothing else to it than just start filling this in with ceiling. So this will still add a decent amount of structures, but with the cellar doors we at least made sure that most of it will be limited structure count wise, which is of course exactly what we want. Now we just have to kind of fill in all of the paths in between the different sections, but that's not too bad, I don't think. So yeah, right over here we want to bring this out all the way to the sides, of course, making sure we get it all ready to go. And that way you'll have a pretty decent sized water pen where you can breed pretty much everything from mosas to other sharks. Of course, we want We want to have the sharks. Sharks are great to do. But yeah, it should fit pretty much everything. The octopus easily will fit inside too. But of course, you need to be wary that you don't want to maybe park them too low that they clip through the bottom, because I'm not sure if creatures will start nibbling at them that way. But if you park them a little bit higher up, you should be totally fine, even with the bigger creatures. So yeah, there we go. That gives us a pretty decent sized water bin down beneath our main base, which again offers you a whole lot of space to utilize for your survival adventure. So if you're looking for an ocean base, this might be the perfect one to use, because you have a lot of space, you have some customization option. Of course, you can just keep this as the only access point to your water pen, which means you could block off this entirely, have a giant room there, you already have a big room here, then you have tons of space up the platforms where you can do whatever you need to. And on the top, you can divide it into different sections or keep it all open for a giant room there too. Now, I think it looks pretty nice just using the default textures, with having the text textures, having the metal textures. If you don't like the look of your ocean platform, there's actually a new cosmetic, which is called the Ocean Platform Catalog, which adds a bunch of options to change the look of it. For example, if you want the ocean platforms to look more tech, you can actually do that now, which is pretty nice. But there's also a whole bunch of other styles to pick from, so definitely can recommend that if you want to change the look of it, especially if you also want to skin the rest of the base, which you can definitely do. I've used the LF Seamless cosmetics here mostly, a little bit of the bunker structures, as well as a little bit of the Pave the Road cosmetic for some of the details. But there's a whole bunch of cosmetics that you can use for a nice modern look, and then you definitely might want to change the look of the platforms to something differently. But yeah, you can see it looks pretty nice if you skin it, but even without it, I think it looks pretty cool. So then a quick tour on the inside. We have, of course, room here, so even if you have different creatures around, you can easily house them up here. You can park the octopus here, etc. You have easy access to all of your different water creatures down below on the different sides, of course. There we are. And then here on this side, we have the ocean breeding access. As I said, easy access to, for example, your archelons, so you can get the algae off them. You can have access to all of your eggs, cryos, etc. to make sure that you can do all of your breeding projects easily and still enjoy the views of your surroundings, so you never really feel like you're closed off from the outside world, which is, of course, pretty nice too. Then on the other side, we have a fully fledged crafting and storage room, so bigger structures can fit inside. Steam forges you can easily have inside as well. Then behind it, we have dedicated storage. We have vaults here, and the same on the other side, so that already gives you a ton of space. Then you can use those platforms for different crafting stations, so that you can pretty much have everything you need in one room, which of course is quite convenient. And then the staircase will bring you up to the top. Then I've not really utilized this room at all, just kind of placed down one aquarium, but yeah, you can easily have more crafting right here in the center of the base if that's something that you would prefer. You have kind of like a nice tribe room here, tribe meetings, a bunch more storage, little kitchen on the other side, and then of course you can utilize this as the sleeping quarters, so your whole tribe can log out here. Some personal storage and cryos ready to grab when you're back in or respawn. And then of course the tops here, you can add your teleporters, you can park your tames here, you can do a little bit of farming. This might not be the most effective way, but if you build a little greenhouse, you can of course do it more efficiently. Again, lots of space to exactly decorate and utilize it as you see fit. Of course, you can play some music. I'm not sure why I did this here. I think it's because I was listening to the new Tides music. But yeah, we have, again, plenty of space here, a transmitter, some acros. You can do breeding projects up here. There's just a ton of space that this base offers for you to utilize and make your own. Anyway, there we go. That's going to be it for today's tutorial. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did enjoy this build tutorial and you want to continue to see more, make sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and of course feel free to leave your suggestions for future builds down in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again in the next video or the next stream. For now, goodbye.